back on the highway. I didn't film any of the drive up to Washington. My wife was with me, and she doesn't like to be on camera very much. But ran, it's like 1,208 miles from one driveway to the other. Got up to Vancouver on Sunday, about 12:30 in the afternoon. Hung out with the family for, well, I don't know, an hour and a half. And then talked a few of them into going with me, and we went and unloaded the trailer. And I don't know how it works, but it usually takes me 3 or 4 days of packing, sorting, mostly sorting, then packing, then loading to get the trailer full. And we unload it. Of course, I'm doing it by myself, but when we unload it, it takes about 2 hours, sometimes less than that. So it's just a lot of work for one person to load the trailer. And like I said, I got to sort through a lot of stuff, because what all do you bring? You know, I was telling my brother the other day, I'm like, I have bins and bins of spare parts. And as an example, I have some bins that hold bushings, and they're body bushings and suspension bushings and sway bar bushings and what have you. And they're all in one bin, you know, and some of them are new, some are used, but were in good condition, enough so that you want to keep them. And, you know, you go to grab that bin, and you're like, okay, do I throw these things away? Or are they valuable enough to label them and put them in the truck, put them in the trailer? And I have dozens of bins of that kind of stuff, you know, of bushings and springs, and I don't do a lot of stuff with metric, you know, so I have bins of metric bolts that when you take something apart, you keep all the bolts, and I dig through it once in a while, needing one bolt or a nut or something. But is it valuable enough to ship it up to Washington? A lot of that stuff waits till the very end of a load, and if I have little pockets of space left, and then I throw those bins or those boxes on board. But anyway, so running down the highway here, Columbia River's off to my left, and just beautiful country. It's been raining the last 2 days. Right now we have some clear, mostly clear skies. It's cloudy, but it's not bad. Not bad. We're expecting some more rain here in a little bit, so running down the highway here. Sure, I'll run through a few more as we get out towards, I think, Twin Falls. It was saying it was supposed to get pretty windy. So, anyway, just thought I'd give you an update. Load, let's see, I dropped off the Mustang that I was building years ago with the EcoBoost, twin turbo EcoBoost in it, and that's what I hauled up. And then I paid some shippers to bring up the 70 Firebird and the Trailblazer that I keep saying I'm going to put one of the other bodies on. So those made it up, and they're all stored. Oh, there's the other good thing. I got there on Sunday afternoon, and if you guys, I don't know if I've told you before in a different video, but if not, the last trip I brought up the 2 4-post lifts that I had and my son's 66 Impala, and we broke down the lifts in New Mexico, laid them into the bottom of the trailer, tied them down to the floor of the trailer, parked his Impala on top of them, tied the car down, and put a few more things in the trailer, but that was pretty much it. It was pretty close to its weight limit, and it was heavy. It was hauling it up here. That was a heavy load. Anyway, got up here, and there's supposed to be power in one of my units, so I brought a big heavy-duty extension cord, thinking I could put the lifts together, put the cars on them. You know, they're 35-foot deep or 30-foot deep units that are and have really high ceilings. So I was going to put cars on these lifts. So I reassembled the lifts in the units, in the storage units, and went to raise them up, and the power in the unit doesn't work. So my RV is up here in Washington. I went and got the generator, and it's just one of those Harbor Freight Predator generators. Plugged it into that, and it couldn't run them. They draw. One unit has a little smaller motor than the other unit, but the first or the second unit I got, I don't know if the motor is not as good a quality motor on that pump, or if it just really needs to draw that much more power. One of the things in the future, if I was going to use it regularly, probably swap out that motor on that pump. Not the point here. Point is, one generator wouldn't do it, so I went, expensive weekend, I went and bought another generator and the little unit that ties them together so that you get double the power, and with that it would raise it. So did that, put his car on top of that lift, raised it up, put another car under it, the Volvo, if you guys remember that one, put it underneath that car, and then on this trip, all of those cases and boxes and everything else I brought went in front of those two cars in that unit, and we put the Mustang that was on the frame rack on the top of the second lift. And when I went to raise it up, I was like, oh, hey, they got power in here now. That's awesome. And then it dawned on me that my generators are missing, and my floor jacks, and my jack stands that I brought up last time, all that stuff was missing. So I called the police, met with them, filed a police report. I have insurance, but they took just enough stuff that barely going to hit my deductible, so it's not really worth reporting it, I don't think, unless we figure out there's some more missing that we're not sure of yet. But yeah, it's welcome to Washington. Been here, you've had your stuff here a whole month, and it's already being stolen. So, and I realize that happens all over the country. It's not special to Washington, but it does suck to lose your stuff and really no recourse, because you talk to the police, and he's a very cool officer, but he's like, yeah, your stuff's gone, right? He's like, I can tell you that we'll look for it, but there's no chance of finding it unless, he's like, if you got serial numbers on the generators, and of course I didn't. I hadn't thought to ever write down, even look and see if they had serial numbers. I'd say that my brother, who used to be a Secret Service agent, said that, yeah, a lot of times all that stolen stuff, it got, I guess fenced or sold directly through like Facebook Marketplace, and he mentioned some other site that I've never been on, but he's like, that stuff was sold in hours, and sure enough, today there was another renter at the storage place when we were getting the other cars brought in, that he opened up his unit, and the whole sidewall of his unit had been, big hole had been kicked in, and they'd used a Sawzall. The units that we have are like 12-foot, 14-foot ceilings, but he's on the end, and so the unit right next to his is down about to like an 8-foot ceiling, and they had looked like climbed up a tree at the back of the units, the whole facility, gotten on the roof of the lower units, and taken a Sawzall or something similar and cut through the sidewall up high into his unit. And then once they were in his unit, what they were doing is they were going through the attic space, crawling through the trusses of the different units all the way down, and I never even thought to look before or pay any attention, but the units are not particularly secure. They're using, it's not chicken wire, but it's, like horse fence or field fence, and that's just what they're using for a ceiling. So there's really nothing up there to protect you from somebody going from one unit to the other over the wall. And that's exactly these people, either it's somebody in the area that has another unit and in that row, and they're just going down through them, stealing stuff, and then putting it in their own unit. Or it really is somebody from the outside, but the hole is pretty small from the outside, so they did not take the product or the stuff they stole out that hole. So I kind of wonder if that's not a diversion tactic, because the generators they stole, the hole that was up there, my generators would not have gone through that hole. I suspect it's one of the other unit renters on that row. There's about, I don't know, maybe as many as 20 units in that row where you could access by crawling through the rafters and the trusses and getting there. So anyway, that was my weekend. And so we drove all day Saturday, half day Sunday. Found out we'd been robbed on Sunday evening. Unloaded those cars. Beautiful countryside out here. I don't know if you can see the Columbia River there off to the left. A little turbulent out there today. There's some wind coming through the canyon here. One thing about it, guys, I'm running down I-84 eastbound, and this is on the Oregon side of the Columbia River, so on the south side of the Columbia River. It's beautiful country, but if you ever decide to run up this direction, there are so many places to see, so many little towns along here that are worth visiting. And there's a lot of waterfalls. You'll just see water coming out of the side of the mountain every here and there. Plus, there are big ones that they have set up as, you know, places to stop and scenic views or whatever. And there is a lot of beautiful locations along this I-84 through here. However, if you ever make the trip up here, cross the river onto the Washington side, and I believe it's State Highway 14, and it's a 2-lane instead of this 4-lane interstate, but run that highway. It's amazingly beautiful over there. A lot of twists and turns. Speed limits like a little closer to maybe 50 miles an hour than the 65 or whatever it is on this side of the river. You know, there's still traffic over there, but it's not terrible. But it is very, very beautiful. A lot of really cool camping on that side that we've done a little bit over there. But you know, every time I've made this trip so far, I am in the process of getting to and from. So every time I've made this trip so far, I'm always in the process of getting to and from New Mexico and Washington to get stuff up here. You know, we'll come up during the winter or something when it was for Christmas and you're not in as big a hurry, but still got a little bit of a time crunch and not really making the time to just stop and see what's out here. But we have driven the highway a little bit on the other side of the river over there, and man, it's just gorgeous. Different view than over here. Like I said, it's a 2-lane state highway instead of this 4-lane interstate. But this is the one you have to make miles on. That's the side you go for a beautiful view. There's quite a few scenic turnouts off the interstate here, and you should hit a few of them at least if you're ever up here. So another thing I was going to mention to y'all is I did a video few weeks back talking about the bumpable buyer. That is a crazy, stupid, really shouldn't be legal in my opinion, real estate debacle. And I think I explained it fairly well during that time. Well, we were bumpable buyer number 2, or we were buyer 2. Buyer 1 is the bumpable buyer. And essentially, buyer 1 had a house to sell, and the owners are taking what I grew up in real estate title insurance business. That's what my family did. And I'd never heard the term bumpable buyer in my entire life. We saw a contract come in every now and then where there was a buyer, call them buyer 1. They have a house to sell, and so there's a contingency. Hey, we're going to buy your house if and when we sell our house. And they go through most of the preliminaries, like they get a home inspection done and basic information to the mortgage company to say, yep, once they sell their house, they can get a mortgage. We're on board with that idea. And then it kind of ends. And so then the sellers will take what I grew up knowing as backup offers. And your backup offer is just that. Hey, if buyer 1 backs out, we'd like a chance to buy it. You negotiate the price, and maybe you go ahead and do your home inspection, and that's about where it ends. You don't really have to do anything else until you know you're the buyer. And you have a term, you put a term on there like, hey, we'll stay in this status for 45 days and or 30 days or 10 days or whatever. In those whatever number of days you choose, they have to notify you before those roll up. Either you're now the buyer or you're out. And that's it. All the rest of the deals are off. Well, the way this bumpable buyer deal works is you go through as buyer 2, you go through your entire process as if you are going to be buying the house and closing tomorrow. And when you get to the end, then they go, oh, okay, buyer 1 has X number of days to put up or shut up. Well, X is not revealed to you until you are done, until you are like, hey, we're ready to buy. We can close tomorrow. And then they come back and say, oh, we get 24 hours, which my contract said, hey, the seller gets 24 hours to notify buyer 1 that you're ready to go. But I don't get to find out how many days buyer 1 has to move forward with their purchase until we get there. And even then, I'm not sure that I have a legal right to know the number, because I couldn't find anywhere in my contract that says you get to know at this point. We did find out on ours that the buyer 1 had 5 business days. I'm sorry, 5 days, not business days. 5 calendar days to make a decision and prove that they could buy it. Either they've sold their house, it's under contract, something, or they've got the funds to close without selling their house. Just whatever, doesn't matter. They're either going to continue with the purchase or they're going to walk away. And then they get 24 more hours to notify us what the status is after their block of reasonable, I can't remember, they called it not reasonable notice, but something to that effect. Well, as we found out, theirs was 5 days. So we sit around for a total of 6 days, only to get told, nope, you guys are out. So we've spent all this money on inspections and corrections and it just, mortgage fees, everything. And we find out we're out of the picture. And I may have shared all this with you in that video a couple weeks ago. But so we walked away. We're like not happy with it, but whatever. Life goes on. We knew we were buyer two when we put our offer in. So 24 hours goes by, and we're like, "Hey, where's the paperwork? We need paperwork so that we can send to the title company and get our earnest money back." And they're like, "Oh yeah, I keep forgetting to send that." I'm like, "Well, you're not forgetting. You're just not doing your job." It was making me pretty upset. Another almost 24 hours goes by, and all of a sudden we get some paperwork, but it's not the paperwork that says that, hey, you're out and here's your earnest, here's our agreement that you get your earnest money back. It was, hey, you're now buyer one. You need to close within, it was, I don't know, a week or something. We're like, God, no. That ain't how this game goes. We had already canceled our mortgage. We had already canceled all the stuff with the title company. Theirs is pretty easy to resurrect. The mortgage, less so. So we're like, nope. If I need to, I'll get an attorney. We'll go after you for failure to do your job. Started writing letters to the real estate commission for their realtor because he obviously was failing to do his job properly and or lying about what was going on. I suspect a little bit of all, because what happened is the buyer one had supposedly told him that they were going to go ahead and close anyway without selling their house, and then stepped aside after all. And so now he was on the hook because he'd lost 2 buyers in 1 week. And so anyway, that all got resolved. Didn't actually have to get any attorneys involved. Basically just created a timeline of everything that we were notified by and showed them that, hey, if you email it or you text it, you put this answer in writing, that's legal notice. It doesn't have to be on form XYZ. Legal notice is anything you put in writing, and we can act on it accordingly. And it would, that would go both directions. So they finally relented. We did the got our paperwork signed, had everything going to the title company to get our earnest money back, and I happened to talk to my realtor because we did still like the house. It had nothing to do with the home that we didn't want it. It was that deal was dead, and dead and gone. And talked to our realtor, and he's like, yeah, it's back on the market, whatever. And I said, well, I think we'd like to make an offer. And he says, well, do you want to just rewrite the offer we had? And I'm like, oh no, people are going to pay some pain and suffering now. So I realize you guys only know me via video for 20 minutes to an hour once every week or so, and in 2020 into 2024 and 2025 once every month or so. But yeah, I don't play the whole we'll go back and everybody kumbaya and we're all best friends. I was over the mad part of it, but I wasn't over the I'm going to give you the same deal I had a month ago. So I hit them pretty low, and they countered. And the interesting thing is they countered lower than we had offered to buy the house from before, or we had agreed on a price before, with all the same conditions otherwise. And then I split their counter with my offer, and they accepted. So as of last week, we are buyer one on a non-contingent, non-screwy, no bumpable buyer rigmarole, nothing like that. we're buyer one on the house that we wanted, with the property we wanted, and I have a great mortgage guy. He was able to essentially resurrect our mortgage, even though the day that we were looking at it, rates were just ever so slightly lower. We could either accept our old number, our old rate, or we could reapply with a new mortgage company. It was going to cost about $500. Well, the savings in the interest rate was only worth like not even $25 a month or something. So it was going to be like, how long is it going to take? I mean, obviously it's math. It doesn't take that long to figure out how long it's going to take to make up $400. But rates are still high enough right now, and I personally believe we're going to see rates come down some more, and they have since. Like, if I could hit a lock today, I'd be down a little bit, enough that it'd be noticeable. But they're on their, I think they're going to continue down. We'll see what everything going on in the economics world does to us. And I'm no economics major, just try and follow enough to keep my money safe and earning some interest for me occasionally. But he was able to resurrect our mortgage at no additional costs. And so we will be closing, I think, next week. And so my next load to Washington should be getting delivered to my new house. And it has a small shop attached. It's got about a 12 or 14 foot wide by 35, 38 foot something RV bay. However, that will be probably where I end up putting my 2 4-post lifts. I'm thinking I could get 4 cars in there on the lifts, and then stuff around the walls. And then right next to that is a much more normal sized garage. It's probably a bay and a half in depth. So I should be able to get some more tools in there and 1 more car. And then the house has a 3-car garage on it. So I should be able to put my wife's car, because you're not allowed to leave the wife's car outside. If y'all haven't learned that, the easiest way to keep yourself out of trouble when it comes to all your cars is you put your wife's car in a bay and you try not to ever get it dirty. Now, I fail at that occasionally, but keep your wife's car in a bay. But the other 2 bays, I should be able to put cars and or tools or whatever combination in. They're regular size bays, so it's not a big garage. I mean, it's 3-car, but it's not a big 3-car like, for example, the one I'm leaving in New Mexico. Anyway, I've just been rambling on as I'm driving down the highway. But the good news is I can move out of these storage units where stuff was being stolen. So mostly what I have stored in there anymore is 5 cars stored in 3 units, and then quite a few black tubs with the yellow lids. Those are all stored in there pretty neatly. But a lot of that's not stuff that, I mean, even tweakers or whoever's taking this crap is going to want. I tried to get any of my expensive stuff out of those units and store it over at my daughter's garage for the next month or a couple of weeks, whatever it takes, to where we have access to the house we're buying. And that's today's the day they're supposed to be doing the appraisal, so we should have in another day or 2 should have the results of that. And that's like the last hurdle to get final approval on the mortgage and be homeowners again instead of homeless people with a lot of money in savings from selling our other house. Anyway, guys, I'm running through what's this little town? I can't remember. The Dales, Dalles, the Dales. So there's a little burger joint I've stopped at here before with my wife, and it's nice during the spring and fall, even the summer. We sat outside We had the dogs with us. Had burger and fries, and it was actually really nice. Food was good. I don't remember exactly where it was along here, but it was a nice little burger place. If I see it, I'll throw the name out, because they did make good burgers, good milkshakes. Love a good chocolate milkshake with my burger. Anyway, I'm gonna flip you back around, let y'all see some of the sights, and talk to you again in a little bit. It's the Columbia River out there. It comes to kind of a big turn here. All right there, guys. I don't know if you can see it. Big Jim's. That was the burger place we went to. Hey, I'm just curious, when you guys are running down the highway, where is it you like to stop? I've kind of gotten hooked on these Love's truck stops. The exit for Big Jim's is coming up next. See if we can see it. It was right off the side of the highway. All right. But this big dam, and the river, power. I think it's a power station, all that. Hopefully you can see that in there. Pretty massive facility. Anyway, I was going to ask you, where do you like to stop? Where you get your fuel? I mean, you just stop wherever you happen to see the next fueling station. Do you have a brand you like? I was trying Maverick there for a while, and because they're also local to where we're at there in New Mexico, and so I had the little card or whatever what do they call it? Member card or discount card? I don't know. Anyway, you buy so many sodas, you get a free soda, or you buy enough gas, they give you a nickel off or whatever. And most of them, there's a lot of them along the route, so that was a pretty good one. A lot of them had pretty decent dog walk areas, so when we have the dogs with us going back and forth, that was pretty nice. But a few of them, the dog walk areas were really not good. It was just mud, or maybe it was gravel. So I hit a few of those, and I was like, well, I don't want to hit this one again. And so then I was like, well, maybe I'll try these. I tried the pilot truck stops. They're nice enough, but it seems like I was always paying the highest price for fuel when I hit those. So I kind of got off those pretty quick. And then last trip and a half, or trip home, and this last week when I drove up, and now I'm driving back. I keep saying up and down as if north and south means up and down, but I think most of us do that. Because the reality is New Mexico is about a mile higher than where we're at in Washington. That's a side point, but anyway, I have kind of gotten on these the Love gas stations or truck stops, and I used to stop at Love's when I had a motorhome years and years and years ago, because they usually had an RV pump station. They're big, they had plenty of room to swing that big old RV around, and I was new to driving something that size. So it was just real good to me. Now if you get their loyalty rewards card, that's what it is called for those others as well. If you get the one for Love's, you get 15 cents off your diesel fuel, for auto diesel. I don't know what these guys driving 18-wheelers and all that, what they're paying for fuel. I think they have special cards or whatever that, whether it's business, some kind of business related expenses. I don't think they pay all the taxes that you and I just driving regular cars and pickups pay for fuel. And they shouldn't be paying all those same taxes. They need that fuel for their job, and that job is to get you and I our eggs and milk and all the crap from China that we all seem to have to buy. Am I ranting? Anyway, shout out to the truck drivers of the country. I hope y'all have a safe trip today and tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm running down this highway thinking that I think I like the Love's truck stops best so far. Yep. Put in the comments. Let me know. What do you guys think? That's a really cool bridge coming up here on the left over the river. This big section, it's up right now, so there must be some boat transiting the area. But we watched one coming up the other day. That part of the bridge was up, and a big barge was being pushed up, or I guess that'd be downriver, was pushed up through there. Hope you can see that over there. It's that white structure on the other side. Really cool. I'd never seen a bridge that raised a whole section like that before. There you go. And this one's a train track bridge, so I don't know how often the train comes across there. If that thing stays up most of the time and they just put it down for the trains, or if it stays down most of the time for the trains and they only put it up for the barges. But pretty different from any kind of bridge like that I've ever seen. I don't know if it'll show up in the camera or not up there on the hill. About half, or not even a third of the way up that hill, you'll see some little white dots, and that's one of the turnouts. That's Highway 14, or I think it's Highway 14, but that's the highway that matches I-84, but on the Washington side of the river. And it goes up and down. It doesn't stay as close to the river as this 84 tends to. It's a little more, a different view. I don't know. They're both pretty cool. Y'all see those windmills over there on the hill? So I'm not trying to start a political debate by any means. I think that was a police officer who just passed. He ain't chasing me, so I guess we're good. Anyway, my brother-in-law, until just maybe a year ago or so, was driving semis. And I don't know exactly from where to where, but what his job was hauling those windmill blades when they'd reached their end of life. So one of these windmills would spin away for however long. I don't know if it's a week, a year, or 10 years. They spin and spin, and those blades have a life cycle on them, which makes sense. But it's curious to me that they would load up his truck and haul one blade. They'd load up his truck with a blade, and he'd haul it out to the desert of Texas, somewhere out in West Texas. And they were stacking them up. And when he asked what was going on, like, how are they going to be recycled? What was the process? He was just interested, just curious. He's hauling these used up these lifetime used blades, whatever you call it. And they're not recyclable. The amount of energy. Now this is what he was told. I'm just telling you what I was told, so it's probably fourth-hand hearsay. the amount of energy it takes to break one of those blades down to its component parts is more expensive than all the electricity it ever helped to produce. And most of the chemicals that are involved in producing that blade are toxic, and there's no way to recycle those toxic chemicals. So rather than break them down, cut them up, do whatever you can do, they are just sitting in the Texas sun baking away. Now, whether all that's true, I don't know. But it is an interesting idea that you produce something that supposedly is good for the environment, but it's so bad for the environment that it's worse than the power that it potentially saved from burning coal or a nuclear power plant or any number of other things. Like I said, I'm not trying to start a political fight, but if that's true, very interesting. I'll give you another one to go with it. Again, information's third or fourth hand. I don't know. Don't know if it's true. Rumor control here. There are two, I think it's only two. I've flown over them many, many times, but I think it's only two. But there are two towers out southwest of Vegas, mostly south, a little bit west, but south of Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada, that have mirrors surrounding them. And the way I understand it is the sun hits the mirrors reflect the sunlight onto the towers. The towers are some kind of steam pump, and the sunlight is creating enough heat that they're creating steam inside these towers, and then they can spin generators, and sounds great. But apparently it's changed the whole migration pattern of some bird. So they're talking now about shutting them down because it's changed this migration pattern, and it's apparently like a bird flies through there, and apparently it just like gets zapped with the death ray or something. I don't know. And I'm thinking, okay, birds adjust, animals adjust to their migration patterns based on many things, predators or any number of environmental things that would maybe make them change what they're doing. And I understand that this could be the environmental change, but it's interesting to think that you would create this, I'm guessing, billions of dollar project only to think that it's more valuable than to shut it down than to think the birds can move their migration pattern. But there you go. That's another rumor I've heard. I've also heard these windmills, not here in Washington, but there's a big bunch of them over near, it's over in California. Now I can't remember the location. I want to say it's over near San Diego. Again, I've flown past them many, many times, and I'm trying to remember exactly where they're at. Anyway, a lot of them are locked down, meaning they're not spinning. And when you ask around, hey, what's going on with the windmills? Why aren't they using them? Well, they were killing birds. Birds would be trying to fly up, and they'd get hit by the blades, or they would hit a blade or whatever and kill them. And so people were having a heart attack over birds that were being killed by windmill blades. And I'm not saying it's the same people that complained because of the nuclear energy or the coal-fired power plants or anything else, but just another group of people who are like, yeah, we got to protect those birds more than we got to make sure people have power so they can eat. store their food in California so you can plug in your car. So it's interesting. You know, all these technologies have their good things and their bad things. And people will always find a way to complain about one side or the other, I guess. All right, I'll shut up and let y'all see some more of this scenery. Shout out to all the truck drivers, except this one guy here on this one in the left lane. He drives like an absolute idiot, running anywhere from 70 to 85 miles an hour, and he can't make up his mind which he's going to run. He weaves in and out of traffic. He's cut me off twice. I don't know how many other trucks he's cut off, and then he slows way down and he's just cruising. So you end up going by him, and then here he comes 5 minutes later, hauling ass, half on the shoulder, half off. You ever see this idiot on the road? Let him go by. You're going to pass him 12 more times anyway. See? Here he is. Came roaring past me. Now he's slowing down again. And he gets off on the shoulder and just kicks up shit onto the highway. So watch out for this dumbass. If they weren't. Well, guys, we're running down 84. We're south of Pendleton, Oregon. And you can see the snow over here on the sides of the roads. That's from about a week ago. Roads are good and clear, but back into some pretty country. That area right there at the end, the last part of the last clip of video, gets kind of brownish, you know. But back up in the mountains. Big pine trees. Lots of traffic on the interstate, though. Sign says 191 miles to Boise. Boise, Idaho. Be my next fuel stop. All fired hurry was to change lanes, get over here, and then he can't pull the hill anyway. Well, I failed to get you a picture of it, but it just passed the 45th parallel. Means back there on the 45th, you're halfway between the equator and the North Pole as we run through Oregon. Little thing you can see, sign of it anyway. But just rolling down the highway still. We're about 85, 90 miles from our next stop. That'll be outside of Boise. Be very much longer here. It'll be getting dark, but you can tell it's better now because it's 5 p.m. local and it's still some daylight. So driving during the winter, that was pretty rough. Some of those times when it's getting dark at 3:30, 4 o'clock, especially if there's cloud cover. So far the weather's been good. Never did run into any more than just a little bit of a sprinkle for rain. And that's totally unlike the last couple days. Sunday and Monday both, we ran through a lot, or Sunday we ran through a lot of rain. Monday at the house, it just rained and rained all day, so it's good to have some good weather here. It's supposed to be good. Looking at it all the way back down, windy in a few places. I think I mentioned earlier Twin Falls. Anyway, turn around, get you another view to run out through southern Oregon. That way you can see me at all in there, but back down the highway, made our second stop. Come a little over 400 miles now, and be rolling through Boise here in just a little bit. Still doing well. Still doing well running down the highway. Everything's working right. More miles to put down. Last I looked, we had a little over 800 to go. So I'm hoping to get about 200 more tonight, and then shut it down, start up again tomorrow. But I figure if I can make Twin Falls, there's a pretty good hotel there that we used before, and that's about the halfway point. So, anyway, you can tell it's dark, so talk to y'all tomorrow. Yep, that's it, guys. We're shut down for the night. Gonna get some rest. See y'all in the morning. Hey, good morning. I am back in the truck. Just finished fueling up here, and about to head out, get on the highway. It's almost 8 o'clock in the morning. I slept in, ate some breakfast at the hotel this morning, so I haven't been in a big hurry, but I gotta put some miles down. We got 610 miles to go, which means we've driven halfway and have to go, but at least we're not starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon like we did yesterday, or noon, whatever it was. So anyhow, let's hit the highway. 2-lane diagonally across Utah and over into Colorado for a little ways. Run south that way. So, Highway 6, I believe, is the number. Turn off at Price off the interstate. Just made our second to last fill up. We're supposedly have about a 340 mile range, and unfortunately we have about 390 miles to run. So this next part's a very pretty part of the drive. Going up through the mountains and Soldier Summit. It's 2-lane. There's some passing lanes on it, but a lot of trucks, so it ends up being fairly slow. The other option is to run south on the interstate about another 40 or 50 miles. That'd be I-15. It changes from 84 into 15 back there somewhere. I don't even remember where it changes at, but run south on 15, 40, 50, 60 miles, something like that. And then you turn off and catch I-70. And this cuts the corner. This is Highway 6. We're cutting the corner from 15 over to 70, and that then drops us down. We'll run on 70 a few miles, and then we drop south, I think onto 160 would be the highway, and run through Moab. So anyway, I'll just give you a little bit of a view here for a little ways, and then catch up with you probably my next stop. We'll be stopping probably about 200 miles. That tends to be how far. Works out real well. 200, 220 miles. Ready for a break and ready for fuel. Pretty cool. You drive out through these small towns, Utah and New Mexico and Arizona, and you'll find a lot of old trucks and cars just parked in people's yards, you know, and a lot of them are not disgustingly rusty. They're pretty good shape, you know. Pretty interesting. A lot of times I'd like to stop and see what's out here and see what's for sale, but like so many other things, I've got way too many projects already. I just passed a house that had, what made me think of that was it had about 5 probably 50s model trucks in there, and they were everything from what looked like maybe an ambulance and milk truck or something of that nature. And you know, you wish you could spot them early enough you could pull off and at least get some pictures or something, but sometimes you're already past it before you even know what's going on. much of a view you get out of that. It's just, I believe at least, Southwest is just beautiful. I realize the colors are not as vibrant as other places, but yeah, look at the mountains, the clear skies, just a few clouds up there. I think it's about the prettiest place ever. Don't get me wrong, the Northwest has got some beautiful colors, and the waterfalls is all pretty. You get up to the Northeast, Maine coast and all that, and it's got its own beauty. But for me, the Southwest mountains and open areas is just top notch. Just off to my left, where I can't get the camera quite to go over to in its mount, it's snow-capped mountains, you know, reaching way up in the sky. Come up here, the highway's going to curve to the left, and you should get a view of the snow-capped mountains off to my left. It's really a beautiful sight. Need to get out here. If you haven't ever driven around the Southwest, you need to get out here. Buildings off to the left, I think are rentals, like you can rent cabins or whatever over here, but there's a big building that I don't think showed up on camera, but it's where the entrance to Arches National Park is. So you come up here a little further down the highway, make a left, and sometimes where you see that pickup, that silver pickup on the other side of the highway over there, there's sometimes you'll come through here and they'll be backed up all the way to the entrance here on the highway where this light is. Just people waiting to drive in and pay the fee and park, or I don't even know. I've actually never been to Arches National Park. It's crazy because I've lived in this area for, well, most of my life now. Might have to make the stop before my final drive to Washington. How's that for a view? You got Moab out there in front of you, mountains up there, desert hills. If you're into four-wheeling, hiking, mountain biking, side-by-sides, any of that, this place is just packed full of places to go and ride and see and do. Sometimes it's crowded and sometimes it's not. This is a good time of year if you have the time off. You know, last end of February, beginning of March, the spring break hits, there'll be a lot of families out here, and then as summer comes on, this place will be full. But even if you're not into camping, there's lots of hotels in the area. Crossing the Colorado River right now. RV park off our right, and they have all these little cabins. Basically look like a tiny home, you know, if you're familiar with those. But you can rent those cabins, or you have places you can park your RVs, and then there's just one hotel after another off the right coming up. There you go. It's not Highway 66, all the things you see, but how about the hole in the rock? It's like on this side there's a rest area, but on the other side of the rock there's a trading post, whatever, you know, pick up your junk, whatever kind of shop, you know, where you pick up your necessary highway memorabilia. Oh, it's closed today. I don't know that I've ever seen it closed before. Anyway, there's a general store there. Just junk in there, but kind of cool little place. That's all south of Moab. Well, guys, made it back to New Mexico. One piece. Just got to load up everything else out here. Well, I don't have to load it all. Got some help. That Scout top is still for sale. Anybody's interested. Here we are. All this stuff still got to go. Another truck. Some of you haven't seen this in a while. It's got an engine and cabs mounted, beds mounted. It's packed, ready to go to Washington though. Got a few little things I need to put away. But got a video coming up on that. See parts for the white truck. That'll be headed to Houston soon. Got to get all this stuff out of here. Toolboxes. Still quite a bit of stuff up top, but it's getting narrowed down. And all these cars are gone. I say these cars, all the cars that were here are gone. That's it for a long 1,200 mile trip. Hope you enjoyed the video, some of the discussions we started, or I started, and hopefully you'll continue. But I got to unload and got one day off, and then to start trying to reload this trailer. Other than that, I got to go to work. So we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for watching.